What a change of turn there in Iran. Well, new leadership in this country may be partly behind its apparent interest in negotiations these days with the US, but years of crippling economic sanctions could also be part of the equation. The oil and gas industry is one sector that's been particularly hardly hit in Iran. CNN's John Defterios joins us now live from CNN Abu Dhabi with a look at how things could be changing these days. John, is oil behind all of this?
I certainly think that's a fair comment. In fact, the energy industry is salivating over the prospect in 2014 or 2015. That's probably the earliest we'd see a movement, Nina. But, you know, sanctions regimes don't always work. They've had leaks with regards to Iraq, Libya, even going back to the 1970s with South Africa. But in this case, the sanctions have really bitten hard on the Iranian people. The rial was down better than 80% this time last year. Unemployment in the state sector has rocketed up. Even poultry and bread prices have shot up as well in the last 12 to 24 months. But it is, as you suggest here, the energy sector where it has bitten the hardest. We've seen energy production, particularly oil production, in the last 2 months drop even further to 2.5, 2.6 million barrels a day. Let's put that into perspective in terms of Iran's potential. It is a huge player in terms of proven reserves, and particularly in the gas sector, Nina, it has 18% of the proven natural gas reserves. That would put it #1 in the world. And right now, there's a lack of investment. They cannot export at any sort of pace. In fact, they recently signed a deal with neighboring Oman to put a pipeline in, but that hasn't started just yet. And the oil reserves still very solid at 9.4%. That would put them in the top 5 worldwide. So they've been shut out of the market for 4 years. Many would think, in fact, that it would take even longer for Iran to get that investment back up. But if the sanctions were lifted, Iran could get to the market rather quickly. Let's take a listen.
This is a 30-day proposition to get back to where they were before the sanctions. That is to increase the production by 1.3, 1.4 million barrels per day. Now, if you want to get higher volumes, then it takes many, many years to build up capacity.
So building up capacity to try to get to 5 million barrels a day, which is realistic for Iran, would take a number of years. But, Nina, the cost to Iran in terms of annual revenues has been severe. Let's go back here to 2007 when Iran had its peak in terms of production. It was almost 4.4 million barrels a day. So if you calculate now to 2.5, 2.6 million barrels a day, Nina, it is costing the government in the range of $55 to $60 billion a year in lost revenues because of the sanctions, Nina.
It's just getting poorer by the day, isn't it? John, if these sanctions were actually lifted, yeah, OPEC would have a hard time. This would affect the competition nearby.
Yeah, in fact, I'm calling it almost just a perfect storm. Not right now because there's not a lot of pressure on the market, but let's look at 12 to 24 months. We know Saudi Arabia is trying to get to 12.5 million barrels a day of capacity. It's producing about 10 million barrels a day. I spoke to Iraq's Deputy Prime Minister in charge of energy. They want to get it to 3.5 million, the highest since 1990, by the end of the year, and 9 million barrels a day by 2020. And we can't forget the coming on stream in a very large way by 2020. The International Energy Agency suggested they'll go toe-to-toe with the United States, Nina. So there's a lot coming down the pipeline here that could affect the energy market, especially if Iran comes back on.